All right, guys. So we're going to go over. We've gone over briefly, the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system. We've talked about the brain and how we integrate all of this information. Now we're going to talk about our special senses, so hearing and sight. And again, on the lab this week, you guys are going to be exploring a lot of the special senses. So sight, taste, hearing, touch. You need to figure out two big things about your environment. What's happening around you through sound, so this is going to be physical waves in the air, and also equilibrium. That is, where is your head in relation to the ground? Kind of important to figure out if you're falling at any given point. Here's the way your hearing works. And I'm going to go through it step by step. And then we're going to talk about it again. Basically, sound is caused by vibrations in the air. Vibrations then get interpreted by your ear. So these are pressure waves. This happens in the air, this happens underwater. It does not happen in space. In space, there are no molecules there in order to pass that wave along. You can hear waves in the ground. Have you guys ever put your head on a pillow at night and then you hear everything in the house? It's like you can hear the rumbling of the air conditioner, whatever, because solid objects tend to transfer pressure waves very readily. Water, a little less so. Air, even less so. Underwater, the sound of a whale's song can travel hundreds of miles. The sound of your voice in the air does not travel very far. They can't hear you outside. If this was a completely fluid environment, they'd be able to. So what your ear is for is converting pressure waves into nerve impulses. That's the point. Yes?
I don't know if this bothers you, but you want on.
So here's how it works. So you've got a pressure wave external to the ear. It's going to travel and enter the ear. That's the reason your ear is shaped the way it is. If you look at the animal kingdom, we've got all sorts of different shaped ears. Look at a bat's ear. A bat's got ears that sort of stick up. They're very wide, and they're that way in order to pick up more sound waves. They funnel them in. Your ears are on the side of your head. You guys have noticed that when you're looking for a sound, what do? You turn your head. You absolutely do that. You're like, is it that way? And you're listening for, you're not looking in the direction of the sound. You're putting your ear in the direction you think the sound is in order to figure out where is that wave coming that's more intense. How do you stop sound from getting into your ears? Right, you plug your ears, you cover them up, you put something in them. You stop material from getting in. You have this pressure wave that comes into your well-shaped ears, and it's going to strike what's called the tympanic membrane. This is a busted tympanic membrane. This is what happens when you put a Q-tip too deep into your ear. So when they tell you don't do that, that could happen. They strike the tympanic membrane, and the tympanic membrane vibrates. Those vibrations are going to strike 3 ear bones. Yes, you do have ear bones. They're inside your ear. They begin to press against each other, and they then vibrate and beat against the oval window right here. So here you got your ear bones. A vibration on the tympanic membrane is going to cause those to vibrate and push on that oval window. So far, so good. Pressure comes in, hits the tympanic membrane, vibrates the ear bones, which press against the oval window, causing it to vibrate. Now, on the other side of that oval window, you have a fluid. So where's the oval window? I think it's right here. Basically, what ends up happening is the oval window vibrates and it pushes a wave through a fluid. You guys have seen waves move in water, right? So as it's moving through the fluid, there are cells that have little hairs sticking out of them. Those hair cells get pushed in the fluid through that wave. Just imagine grass in the ocean. It's being pushed, so they go in a direction. And as they move in that direction, they open up and allow ions to be released. As those ions open up and are released, that's now a chemical signal. I'm sorry, that's now an electrical signal because they're ions. So they begin to change the charge of the atom next to them, and the charge of the atom next to them, and the change of the atom next to them. And that signal moves very, very quickly from the ear to the brain, following an axon now. So what happens in your brain? What's the point of the brain? Right, so it receives it, and then it's going to start interpreting that signal. That's where you start to change sound into, you interpret sound waves as a particular sound with meaning. So, here's a question for you. If a tree falls in a forest, and nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound? Sound is perceived in the brain. It does not make a sound. Correct. It's right. We're back to taxonomy-ish. A bear, right? Okay. So a squirrel. You could say if there was a squirrel there, the squirrel could interpret the sound.
So, but
there you go.
Like if there were a forest devoid of any life that's capable of hearing,
right?
Would the tree make a sound?
Right. Equilibrium. Because the ear's not just for sound. The ear is also super responsible for making sure that your body maintains its equilibrium. That is, it's able to stand upright and you know where your head is at any given point. I know at some point in your life you've been laying down for quite a while, you sat up, and then you're like, whoa, that's wrong. Saturday night, I had some sort of migraine. I don't know what I did. I think I ate something bad. So on Saturday, I went out. So here's my Saturday morning. I went out and I had a lot of food. I went to this restaurant that I did not think would serve me as much food as it served me. But I had grits and home fries and an omelet, right? And this was really good. And then I was like, cool, from here, I'm gonna go over to an ice cream store. And they had flights of ice cream. How awesome is that, to have a flight of ice cream? A flight? A flight is 4 different things. 4 different ice creams. So I had pumpkin ice cream, and I had blueberry and goat cheese ice cream, and hold on, I'm not done. And snickerdoodle ice cream, and what was the last ice cream I had? Carrot cake ice cream. This was at, I think it was Blue Cow Creamery. Yeah. This was up in Fredericksburg. So I ate all of this high-fat, high-sugar food. And I should have thought, my body's going to not like this later. Sure enough, it didn't. And I had this massive migraine. So I laid down for a few hours. So I thought to myself, I'm just going to lay down here and watch Netflix. And I watched like 6 Shark Attack shows because that's the way I roll when I'm trying to relax. And then nothing went away, so my wife made me go lay down in the dark. And then it started going away. 9 o'clock. 3 hours later, I'm like, I'm going to get up and do something. I sat up after laying down for a few hours. And oh my God, I fell down. Like, it was the weirdest thing. I could not get up. I got up like 30 seconds later. I had to let my body get used to the equilibrium again. But what had happened was, in order to determine equilibrium, you've got this cochlea here, right? You see several different layers to it. Within the cochlea are hair cells, as we just discussed. That's the same area the tympanic membrane strikes the ear bones, strikes the oval window, leads into the cochlea. Hair cells in there. These hair cells along the bottom are going to be responsible for things like sound. They're going to get interpreted as sound. But up in this snail shell looking place, you have these small structures called ear stones. They're these calcium carbonate particles. When you lay down, they're going to roll to one part of this structure, touching hair cells in there. And then those hair cells in the intersection, where the ear stones are touching, are going to be interpreted as where your head is at any given point. So if your ear stones are arranged where they're all on top of each other, that means your head is upright. When you lay down, the ear stones fall back. So if they're over here, lined up, that means that basically you're laying down. And your brain is interpreting the world based on where your head is. If you're falling, you know, because based on where those ear stones are in that fall, where your head is going. So you know to protect your head. Kind of cool. That's how you get equilibrium. As you get older, your hair cells aren't working as well, your equilibrium gets thrown off much faster. And that's what happens. That's what's happening with my parents lately, because they're getting older. They're getting dizzy because, or they get, my dad got so mad the other day because he was trying to look at some electrical work up in the rafters. And when he put his head back to normal, he almost fell down because head is oriented like this, and suddenly like that, it's going to lead to equilibrium problems. So, as a kid's running along and falling, those ear stones are going to be reacting in order to figure out exactly where the head is so you can keep your head protected. Because what's in your head that's so very important? Your brain, right? It's also, you're cephalized. That means a lot of your sensory organs are in your face. Head's kind of important. So there we go. Sound. Interpreting sound and interpreting equilibrium. Questions or concerns? Yes?
For tinnitus, because like the sound's not actually coming in, why do people like this?
So tonight, and I'll be honest, I don't know off the top of my head for sure, but here's what I would expect would happen. Tinnitus is caused by a sudden loud noise, usually. It's so something happened on the tympanic membrane that's caused a vibration. It's got to be passed along internally, and it's something dealing with the hair cells still staying fired. I don't know what, but I'll look it up and get back to you.